Today's lesson is going over how to use the SAAS and HLLS proportions, specifically looking at right triangles. So again, a right triangle is made up of a right angle, two legs, and a hypotenuse. So if you need to draw yourself a little picture, I would have my right angle, a leg, and the hypotenuse is always across. An altitude is a perpendicular line, so it forms a right angle drawn from a vertex to the opposite side. So if we look at the following picture, we have our right triangle, ABC, and because of the altitude drawn CD, there are actually three right triangles drawn in the following diagram. We have our larger right triangle. We then have the two inside that are formed because of the altitude dropped from C to AB. So CD is the altitude of triangle ABC. In triangle ABC, so in our purple, AC and BC are the legs, and AB is the hypotenuse. So we have legs, hypotenuse, because it is opposite of the right angle. So there are two different proportions that we are going to be working with. So the first one is looking at side, altitude, side, so the sides 1 and 2. So if I look at the following diagram, I know that because of the way that these right triangles are structured, I have two sides here. I have side 1 and side 2. And this is my altitude. The side, altitude, side basically lets me state that if I set up a proportion with side, then my altitude, and then my other side, this is always going to be true. The other one that I have is hypotenuse, leg, side. So here we're going to be looking at the larger triangle because I have my hypotenuse here, leg, and side. So I'm able to say that my hypotenuse AB over my leg, which is, BC, is going to be equal to BC over side DB. You also could have done AD as well. So these are the two different proportions that we're going to be using to set up some of these problems. So for example, here, I'm given the altitude. So this tells me that I might want to use side, altitude, side. My side here, let's do side 1, side 2, and A. So we have x over 6 is equal to 6, so over 4, cross multiply, we get that x is equal to 9. Again, I knew to use side, altitude, side because it gave me the length of the altitude. Similarly, now we're solving for the altitude, so we can set up our proportion. So write that as a reference. So side, altitude, side. 20 times 25, calculator, which is 500. Now we have a square, so we have to take the square root. So second square root, 500 Let's round this to the nearest tenth, so 22.4. You also could have simplified the radical. So underneath this is 100 times 5. The square root of 100 is 10 radical 5, if you want to be precise. Now here we're given something different. We're not given any information about the altitude, so I know that I'm going to be using my other proportion. So I need to know the hypotenuse, a leg, and a side. So my leg is here. The hypotenuse is the entire distance, so in this case it's 36. And I'm going to choose one of the sides. I will choose 4. So let's say that we have our hypotenuse 36 over x is equal to x over 4, cross multiply, x squared is equal to 144. Take the square root of both sides, x is equal to 12. So now again, we're going to look and see. We're given information about the hypotenuse. So we're going to use hypotenuse, leg, side. So let's label. Our hypotenuse is equal to 12 plus 2, which is 14. We have our leg and a side. So we have 14 over x equals x over 2. X squared is equal to 28. Take the square root of both sides to get that x is equal to 5.3 when we round to the nearest tenth. And again, we are going to use hypotenuse, leg, side, because we don't know anything about the altitude. So here, my hypotenuse is equal to 5 plus x. My leg is x plus 2. Side is x. So we have 5 plus x over x plus 2 is equal to x plus 2 over x. So this one's going to get a little bit messy. So you have to double distribute to get x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equal to 5x plus x squared. Now I'll subtract the x squareds from both sides. So now I'm left with 4x plus 4 is equal to 5x. And when I subtract 4x from both sides, I will get that x is equal to 4. So here I can see that I have two variables. Remember, when there are two variables, you know you're going to have a two-step process here. So if I want to solve for y, so y would be side, altitude, altitude, side. So 6 over y is equal to y over 24. Y squared is equal to 6 times 24, which is 144. Y is equal to 12 after you take the square root. Whereas x, we're going to use hypotenuse, leg, side. So we have hypotenuse is 24 plus 6 for 30 over our leg x. Leg is x, side is 6. X squared is equal to 180. When I take the square root of 180,